これより TICAD8 公式サイドイベントを開催いたします。本サイドイベントの進行は熊本大学の甲斐博文が務めさせていただきます。どうぞよろしくお願いします。それでは開催に際し主催者を代表し、熊本大学長小川久夫よりご挨拶をさせていただきます。小川先生、
Professor Ogawa to say a few words of greetings.
熊本大学学長の小川久夫でございます。主催者を代表し、ご挨拶させていただきます。熊本大学では、これまでにアフリカの教育機関等と連携し、アフリカの公衆衛生の向上と、より健康的な暮らしを基としたさまざまな取り組みを行ってまいりました。その研究教育拠点として、スーダンのハルツーム大学に熊大スーダンオフィスを、タンザニアのムヒンビリ大学に熊大タンザニアオフィスを設置しました。また、熊本大学では2019年10月に第7回アフリカ開発会議 TICAD8 のホストフォーラムとして国際シンポジウムを開催しました。その成果をステートメントとして熊本提言2019にまとめ、感染症及び非感染症に関するアクションプランを国内外へ発出し、さまざまな活動を行ってまいりました。本日は本年8月末にチュニジアで開催された第8回アフリカ開発会議 TICAD8 の公式イベントとして、前回に引き続き国際シンポジウム、創薬やアフリカ伝承薬活用による健康的かつより良い生活を求めてをオンラインにて開催します。本日の議論を受けて、あなたの
New action plans, Kumamoto Statement 2022 will be developed and disseminated to government agencies, academia, and businesses in Japan and throughout Africa. Kumamoto University will contribute to improving universal health coverage, UHC, in Africa, and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I hope that today's symposium will be meaningful for all of you. And with these, I would like to conclude my few words as an organizer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Ogawa.
Now I'd like to invite Mr. Tetsuro Yano, President of the Association of African Economy and Development, who participated in the post-forum in Kumamoto of the TICAD8 and gave a summary of the conference. Now, please welcome Mr. Yano.
会先生、ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for your introduction.
ご紹介をいただきましたアフリカ開発協会会長の矢野でございます。今ご紹介いただいて3年前に遡りますけれども、TICAD7 についたフォローアップの思いでもっての研究会等々が開催されたわけでありますけれども、私も出席しまして、大変意義ある会議だったなということを今更ながらに思い出します。そして会議が終わった翌日、東京に先生方を連れして、その成果を直接 JICA に持ち込み、しっかりとした報告をさせていただいたと、こういう経過を私なりに今更ながら思い出したいわけであります。今、学長の小川先生からお話がありました。熊本大学として創薬等々本当に開催学先生方が真剣に取り組んでいらっしゃる、その成果たりは大変大なものがあるということで、今日も研究結果大変楽しみな発表があるようであります。ぜひ期待してお聞きいただければな、こんな思いをいたしておりますけれども、しかしながら3年前をこの熊本に訪問した際ですね、熊本城の 天守閣がまだ工事中だったんですね。天守閣、こう一生懸命、工事をやって、いつ頃完成するのかなと思ってたんでありますけれども、去年の3月にすでに天守閣リハビリが完成したというふうな時の経過は3年だというような話だと思うんですね。ですから、ぜひ今回のTICAD8のこの今日の会議の結果ですね、私は広いアフリカの大陸の中で、この研究結果が一人でも多くのアフリカの人たちに裨益するような、具体的なぜひ取り組みをしていただければな、こんな問題意識を持たせていただきたいと思うんです。私も関係者の一人ということで、何としてでも具体化のために精一杯微力でありますけれども、協力をさせていただこうと、そんな思いでもあります。先日、8月の27日、28日、チュニジアで第8回の
TICAD8 was held in Tunisia, and we, African Development Organization, participated in the 8th meeting, and there had been the issue raised in this regard. And so this was a very good opportunity. So we talked about 4 important issues about medical provision. One is about malaria and other infectious diseases. So some people would develop malaria, and the infection, the microbial would be divided. But still, in many cases, it is impossible to cure them totally because of the fact that the infection is not complete. So in that situation, the women in their 30s would develop the cardiovascular diseases, which would result in the congestion of the blood vessels. So that means that they would have a baby, and they would get pregnant, and then they would visit the hospital. And then in that situation, because of the congested vascular diseases, they have to go through the surgery. So that means that in order to solve this problem, that woman would have to go through the surgery, and that would be a huge burden for herself and also for the baby. And in many cases, they have to lose their babies. And then there is a new development of the catheter-related solution, which was developed by the professor at Tokyo University. So this is the new method with which it is possible to soften the structure of the cardiac valves. So that means that it is possible to work on the surgery of the valve in half a day. So that means that the patients do not have to stay in the hospital overnight. So centering around Tunisia, CC would like them to expand the coverage of this kind of surgery. And also, allow me to repeat myself, they are working on the researches, and the outcomes should be there, and outcomes should be communicated to people who are related to this field. So we'd like to make sure that we will save one life or one more life in Africa with our effort. So that's something we have to do. So that's how I am looking at the outcome of the TICAD8. I sincerely hope that today's symposium will be the first step, second step, and even third step to move on to this direction. I sincerely hope that your research and activities will be quite fruitful in the land of Africa. With this, I'd like to close my opening remarks. I sincerely hope for the major success of this symposium. Thank you.
President Yano, thank you very much for your encouragement. As President Yano said, we have formulated Kumamoto Statement 2019 from the previous, or the 7th TICAD meeting, the post-forum event. I'd like to introduce some slides. The details. So if you can kindly refer to this document separately. Now the statement outline talks about how to make the universal health coverage more fulfilling. This should be made based on the spirit of Sampo Yoshi, which is a combination of customer, vendor, or society, the three parties. There are two themes. One is to improve health and life conditions by sharing and transferring Japan's technical knowledge. And the other one is to improve access to medical service and to also be able to implement more constructive measures to enable this. So Kumamoto statement 2022 is what we would like to formulate after this discussion. So let us begin the discussion. I'm going to ask the Mary Ann Suiko from Kumamoto University to be the facilitator.
I am Mary Ann Suiko from Kumamoto University. I will facilitate this panel discussion. Let me introduce the first speaker, Dr. Haruo Naito. He is the Director, Representative Corporate Officer, and CEO of Eisai Company. He will talk about the activities of Eisai in tackling some of the neglected tropical diseases. Please welcome Dr. Naito.
It's a great honor to have a chance to talk about some of our activities in the tropical disease area. And today I titled my speech, Achieving Social Good in Africa. So first slide, please. So Eisai Company is basically a pharmaceutical company which has specialty in Alzheimer's disease and oncology area, but also we are greatly focused on global health, particularly MTBE and malaria. So let me talk about our company's concept, philosophy, which we call human healthcare concept abbreviated into HHC. And this is, we are aiming to realize the social good with efficiency. And here, what are the terms social good? Our definition of social good is here, relieve people's health anxiety, worries, and reduce health disparities. But we like to do it in a very efficient way, effective way. And the definition of efficiency has a variety of the definition exists, but we like to be efficient in funding, talent gathering, technology application, and business model. So those 4 areas we like to pursue efficiency. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, this is our concept is incorporated into our article of incorporation, which is a kind of constitution of the country. So how it's important is apparently if you look at this article of incorporation. Next, please. So our history in global health may be
summarize into this slide, we participated in 2012 London Declaration. You may know this is the largest public-private partnership to combat, at that time, 10 NTDs. If you look at the picture there, on the left side, it's Margaret Chan, WHO Secretary General at that time. In the middle, Bill Gates, and on the right end, I'm sitting there, which is a great achievements, such as 14 billion treatments donated free of charge to pandemic, endemic countries. 46 countries eliminated at least one NTD, and sweeping sickness, guinea worm disease are about to be eliminated. And our focus area, LF, lymphatic filariasis, 17 countries elimination, and 70% of patients reduction from 2000, year 2000. So it has a tremendous, achievement, but still, of course, not perfect at all. We are on the way. And now all of us know successfully transferring to Kigali Declaration this year again. We participate in this Kigali Declaration as one of the 8 major pharmaceutical companies. And this time, big difference is that, endemic countries' ownership is quite emphasized. So compared to London Declaration, endemic countries get power. Next, please. So this is just for reviewing 20 NTDs, and we are focusing on lymphatic filariasis and now mycetoma, most neglected type of NTDs. Still 1.7 billion people are at risk, and it's a very major cause of stigma, as well as the poverty and huge social discrimination. Next, please. Next, please. So what we have done, we are doing in lymphatic filariasis. This is mainly provision of DGC tablets, one of the basic treatments for LF. And this is all free drug supply. But point here is we call this as price zero business. So it's not something donation or philanthropic efforts, but this is very central business of our company, which our concept leads. You should do this for the sake of social goods. So this is authentic business of ASI. And what we have done here. So please look at the left hand. 2010, I had a chance to talk with Margaret Chan, that time WHO Secretary General, and he asked me, why not Naito-san, you can help us in NTDs. So how we can help that, and think about producing NTD drugs by our own facility, because we are a pharmaceutical manufacturer. This is most authentic way to contribute. So we pick up DHL carbamazine, DC tablets as a target products. And this is quite new. So we decide to utilize our Indian, very modern production facility located in South India, Vizag. And we got WHO qualification in the year 2013, which is a very high hurdle for quality drugs, and start supplying the drug. And so far, we've been successfully delivering over 2 billion DC tablets to 29 countries. And the achievements is what I said in the previous slide. But this is not just a drug supply. We are helping a disease awareness campaign, as well as a very important mass drug administration we collaborate with them. And also in Kenya, we provided a water tank for several sites in Kenya. So it's a very comprehensive activities, and all of those activities we call price zero business. That means we'll continue this and complete this as our authentic business. Next, please. Next, please. Okay. And one of the key elements of for Japanese companies doing this is the existence of Global Health Innovative Technology Fund, which is a fund mechanisms to support NTD, malaria, TB drug development. And if you look at this circle, half of the funding is from Japanese government, 18 billion yen, and 10 billion yen from Gates and Wellcome Foundation. And Japanese private industry provided 8 billion yen as a fund, and there are several in-kind contributions from Japanese companies. So cumulative funding reached to 36 billion yen since 2013, which are supporting over 100 NTD malaria TB products. A point here is projects need to involve Japanese companies or research institutes. That make Japanese as one of the hub of drug development for NTDs and malaria. Next, please. Okay, next, please. Okay. So this is the pipeline of ASI for NTDs and malaria. Here, let me talk about the business model. Please look at the headline. A majority of those projects are academia origin, that GHIT funding, and pharmaceutical company ASI development. So this is a business model of efficient drug development. So come to NTDs. Let's say I'm going to talk about in a minute about E1224, very successful development of mycetoma drug with Hatsum University, and also we have a filariasis development with Liverpool University, and various other new molecule which has a new action mechanism as NTDs. All of them, majority of them are academia origin and applying this business model. If you look at the malaria side, also we have academia origin, University of Kentucky, safe, rapid-acting, low-resistance malaria drug. And second to the top is collaboration with Broad Institute, a Boston-based public institute, which has a very interesting malaria small molecule development, single-dose cure, multi-stage acting, and several other drug development activities. All of them are, applying this business model so that very efficiently drug development are ongoing. Next, please. So next slide, please.
Next slide.
Okay. This is one of the focus of today's presentation. It's about the collaboration with the University of Hatsum, and we greatly appreciate Professor Fahad's leadership to do this, because it's a drug attempts for mycetoma, most neglected disease, which we didn't clearly clarify what is the cause of infection itself. But it's going to be bacterial and fungal origin, but we don't know the detail. So attempts is using our fluconazole, which is our own developed, discovered antifungal agent, E1224. And this is the model of ASI origin, GHIT funding, ASI development, and DNDi, and academia in clinical regulatory collaboration. And in this case, academia is the University of Hallsum, and Professor Fahal group. This successfully ending phase 2B study, and in the middle, you can see very good result. This showed most potent activities for fungal mycetoma, once a week oral dosing, and not affected by the diet. Very, fitting profile for the usage for mycetoma patients. And thank you very much for University of Hallsum, Professor Fahal efforts, because without contribution of this group, we never reached to this stage. And I hope the NDI people are now thinking about how we're going to be regulatory filing this drug for the approval. And with this DNDI group, we have a midterm alliance that includes data and AI area. Next, please. Next slide, please. So let me talk about Africa. Of course, audience has a specialist in this, so maybe it's redundant information. But this is a population outlook, so-called population bonus. How large, your productive population is over the, very young one, very elderly one. So 15 to 64 years population look at. Japan already peaked out, US peaked out, China is about to peak out, and India, Middle East will be peaked out in by 2050. But if you look at Africa, very, very young generation, and peak of this population bonus period is much later. That's why we're talking about the huge potential of Africa. It's going to be next growth area, and a lot of fruitful results will come from Africa. Next, please. Next slide, please. So this is kind of my hypothesis. Of course, Africa is still very scarce of medical infrastructure, less doctor, less hospitals, less diagnostic, facilities, etc., etc. But I think, not just real medicine, but adding to real medicine, so-called digital medicine or remote medicine, makes a difference. So now there's a remote diagnosis or remote checking of the symptoms, conditions started by using smartphone. And on the left bottom, I'm showing a kind of new Japanese technology detecting larval source. So taking the picture from the sky, and AI analyze which lake, which pond is the most larval, source. So we can, destroy those larval source. So this is the origin of mosquitoes. So this is maybe kind of, in a broad definition, remote medicine. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, and also amazingly high penetration rate of smartphone or mobile phone. In Africa, it's over 80%, and Kenya, I think the statistics is correct. It's over 100% of mobile phone, positioning, and using this smartphone. we may create less infrastructure, less regulation, less distance, less investment, atmosphere, and more people involvement, more access, more impact, and more frequency. This kind of dream may come true by leveraging this mobile phone or smartphone position. That's greatly different compared to 10 years ago. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, let me talk one of our example of remote medicine. This is actually we have started in China with a collaboration of Jindong Health, big China digital company for Alzheimer's disease. It's an internet hospital. So everything is online except first diagnosis. This is still offline. We need in-person diagnosis one time at the beginning, but the rest of the cycle of the treatment and diagnosis can be done through online basis. So here we have registered at this moment around 4,000 AD specialists on our internet hospital, and the patient can get into this and select the physician and make the appointment and have an online session of diagnosis. And the results, if there's a prescription, it's going to be, the drug will be delivered to their home later by using Jindong delivery system. By this, I put down in the bottom, aim to contribute to relieving anxiety of people living with dementia and reducing health disparities by delivering high-quality drugs and medical services throughout China, regardless of time and location. We are planning to expand this internet hospital in China, and I'd like to see the opportunity to apply this in Africa region as well. Next, please. So final two slides. So most modern companies, corporation should be public benefit corporation, not just for profit, but we should simultaneously aiming clear purpose of public benefit. And to explain that, impact accounting method is, developing a relatively high speed governance for multi-stakeholders, not just for shareholders, and various funding mechanisms should be think about. Final slide, next one, please. So for ASI, NTDs and malaria is core business domain, the same degree as Alzheimer's or oncology. So our aim is to impact Africa. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Naito. This was a brilliant presentation. Clearly, ASI's efforts towards the eradication of neglected tropical diseases have made quite a strong impact. So by providing better access to medicines, ASI has improved the health and saved lives in Africa. Better medical access is also a goal that we aimed for, as what we have declared in the Kumamoto University Statement 2019. And to achieve this common objective, private company and academia partnership is a good way to move forward. So Dr. Naito, this leads me to a question in your presentation where you show that some of the medicines that ASI has developed actually originated from academia and that you also collaborated with the academia for clinical trials. Could you please elaborate on this? Like, how did you reach out and started this collaboration?
Yeah, academia collaboration is key for success and key element of a business model. But there are several prerequisites to achieve this. One is a good understanding each other. And so we need to share the views, values, issues together to understand fully each other, what is each stance, and kind of lead to empathy, intersubjectivity. So academia's thinking and industry thinking should be overlapping together on the same page. Then probably we can see the similar future. So this first communication may take a slightly longer time, but that is the key elements to reach truly fruitful academia-industry collaboration in the coming days. And once we achieve this empathy, this gonna be last for 10 years, 15 years. That's what we are experiencing at this moment. So I hope we can, have a similar experiences with, for example, University Khartoum or other African academia as well.
Thank you. So clearly, those outcomes from your collaborations have shown how productive the private and academia partnerships could be. If you don't mind, I have another question. You have shown about the digital medicine and remote medicine, but my question is about the real medicine that you have mentioned in your slide. So if you could please clarify what you mean by real medicine.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question. And very difficult to answer too. So there are a bunch of definitions, but my definition is whatever the drug taken or administered to human body and taking into human body, it's a real medicine. But simultaneously we know, for example, for anti-depression, there are huge, capacity room for non-medicine treatments, which is mainly consist of advices from physicians or caregivers through various, digital, routes such as smartphone or mobile phone can help improve depression greatly. So those areas are expanding very rapidly. Epilepsy, the same. So those opportunities has been great, and that is not actually taken into human body at all. So that may be the borderline.
I understand. Okay, Dr. Naito, thank you very much for sharing with us all this important information. Please stay with us for more panel discussions. We have heard from Dr. Naito how ASI has contributed towards the improvement of medical access. We also learned how ASI maximized their contributions through collaborations in part with the academia. So now we will hear from our colleagues in Africa about their works on traditional medicine. So first, let me introduce our next speaker, Professor Festus Tolo. Professor Tolo is the Chief Research Scientist and Deputy Director in the Center for Traditional Medicine and Drug Research, Kenya Medical Research Institute, or KEMRI. He will talk about the current situation of healthcare and traditional medicine in Kenya. Please welcome Professor Tolo.
Thank you very much for that very elaborate introduction. I don't know whether you can see my slide.
Yes, okay.
You can see it?
Not yet. Maybe it will come.
Not yet. Oh. It's not coming?
Not yet. just for a minute.
Okay.
Yes, that we can see your slides.
Now you can see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be part of this very important meeting. And I'm indeed very grateful for the honor given to the Kenya Medical Research Institute and Kenya in general for us to share our experiences in the area of traditional medicine and what we are doing to avail this product for the mainstream healthcare system for our country and in the region. As you have heard, I work for the Kenya Medical Research Institute and at a center where we deal mainly with traditional medicine as the core business of our research to identify therapies which we can use for diseases of the region. Very, very briefly, I will share with you the extent of usage of traditional medicine in Kenya, what we are doing in terms of development of these traditional medicines as therapies for management of infections of the region, what our government is promoting, and what are our constraints, and then what are we suggesting that we can do in this area of traditional medicine. Yeah, as I was saying, our government recognizes traditional medicine as a source of medicine for management of infections in our country, and therefore has put down regulations on how to manage the product, the herbal medicine product, and how to manage the practice of traditional medicine. And it is a requirement in my country that a herbal product needs to be registered by the pharmacy and poisons boards of the country so that it is legitimized as a product which can be used in healthcare. Also, the government requires registration of traditional health practitioners so that they are verifiable when they produce or they use the product to take care of the healthcare of the people. Now, it is very important to recognize that traditional medicine is a key platform for identification of new therapies for emerging and re-emerging diseases. And therefore, as Kenya, we are indeed very keen on identifying therapies which can be used for management of emerging and re-emerging diseases in our country. And it is for this reason that the government set up the Kenya Medical Research Institute, whose main mission is to improve human health and quality of life through research, capacity building, innovation, and service delivery. And in that effort, came up with a fully fledged center where traditional medicine is researched and formulated for the provision of therapies for management of disease in the region. And therefore, going by the WHO agenda on traditional medicine, the country is very keen in developing therapies which can be integrated in the mainstream healthcare system to supplement what is available as conventional medicine for management of disease. Now, briefly in COVID-19 management, because we are aware that this COVID-19 has been a serious problem, pandemic in the whole world, we are looking at certain medicinal plants in our country and in the region, which we are repurposing for management of COVID-19 And we are looking at them because they have been used for management of various diseases which are similar to how the COVID-19 infection presents. And we are looking at this particular herbal medicine with an aim of identifying ones which can be used as alternative therapies for management of COVID-19. As I present to you at this workshop, we already have leads into where we are seeing some of the products of these medicinal plants showing very good antiviral activity against the COVID-19 virus, causing virus. And therefore, we are hopeful that in the very near future, we'll be able to have identified therapies from these plants which we can use as complementary to already the vaccines which are being given and the new therapies which are being developed for management of the COVID-19. Now, besides the COVID-19, our research has been able to identify herbal medicines which we are now using for managing various diseases which we have in the region. I would like to share with you some 3 products which are currently in use and which has gone through the whole research and been able to be registered by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board in our country for management of various ailments. One of the key products we have been able to develop is the one we are calling Zedupex. This is a herbal remedy for management of herpes infection in humans. Now, herpes, as we might know, is an opportunistic infection which is very pronounced in Africa and in Kenya, where seroprevalence rates of up to 80% has been seen in young adults. So, as I was saying, the Zedupex is a herbal product which we have developed for management of herpes and is working very well. The other product we have been able to develop is what we are referring as fungicide for management of Tunga penetrans, the flea which causes jiggers. Jigger manifestation is a tropical neglected disease, infection which can be managed but is not given prominence. We have been able to develop a herbal product which can manage the jigger. It can be able to kill the flea and therefore stop the manifestation in human and therefore stop tungiasis. This is a product which is very useful for us and we are already using. The other product which I would like to share with you is a product which we are calling Papina, is for mild hypertension. Yeah, there is hypertension in the region, in our country, and we have this herbal product which has very low side effects. It has a low sodium level and is used instead in placement of the common salt and is very nice in management of mild hypertension. Yeah, now, very quickly, the general challenges we have in the region as in traditional medicine is the destruction of the natural habitats of these plants. This comes because of expansion in agriculture and also increasing rates of human population. The other problem we have is lack of conservation of these medicinal plants, and this actually comes due to unsustainable harvesting practices, where we find that some of the species are being lost through unsustained harvesting, and therefore this lack of conservation is making some of these medicinal plants run extinct. The other problem we have is loss of indigenous knowledge. As we get more and more educated and getting more newer information into how management therapies are managed, some of the people who are knowledgeable in this particular area of traditional medicine do not share this information with the younger generation, and due to natural attrition, when they pass on, this knowledge is lost. And therefore, we lose certain methods and ways of preparation of these herbal medicines, which is very important. The other area we have problems with is intellectual property rights and also exploitation of communities who are knowledgeable in certain aspects of traditional medicine. We need to have protection and ways in which we can be able to protect this information and protect these communities so that they do not lose this natural knowledge they have in the area of traditional medicine. The other problem we have is lack of scientific information on safety, efficacy, and quality of the products. The other problem is policy and legislation. We still don't have proper legislation and policy in place for the organized and proper regulation of the product and the practice. And then also, we lack institutions where proper information on how the product and how the presentation of the practice can be done, so that it is done in a way that it can be referenced, that it can be able to be verified, to provide products which are therapeutic, which are of known efficacy and safety, and also people who are knowledgeable in diagnosing and giving proper medication for various diseases. Now, what I feel that we can recommend for this is, first of all, of course, to see how we can be able to conserve some of the medicinal plants we have before we lose them. We need to document the presence of the medicinal plants and the indigenous knowledge so that we are able to contain this knowledge for prosperity, and so also use it for development of products which we can use for management of diseases of the region. We also need to develop intellectual property rights. We also need to find ways in which we can protect communities which have this knowledge so that they are freely able to share it without being exploited. We need to do research to look for safety, efficacy, and quality of these products so that we can be able now to integrate this product into the mainstream healthcare system to serve, to help our people. We need to develop legislation and develop certain, I would say, requirements which are going to put the use of traditional medicine in terms of the product and in terms of the provision of the service in a way that it can be able to be used in a regulated and in a well-defined form so that it can be able to provide service which is more accurate and more reliable. And then we also need a technological framework so that we can be able to develop this product specifically in a way that we know the dose, we know the efficacy, and we know perhaps like the shelf life, and presentable, to be able to present the product in a way that is acceptable, that is, I would say, equivalence to the way the conventional medicine is presented. Now, very, very briefly, I think that's what I would like to share. This picture is very important for us because this was taken less than a month ago, where we are signing a collaboration with our Japanese colleagues and brothers and sisters in a way of sharing information, technology transfer, so that we can be able to develop this product in a manner that is well presentable, in a manner that it is safe, in a manner that is efficacious, so that our people can benefit from these products. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Professor Tolo. Thank you for your presentation, Professor Tolo. You clearly presented to us the importance of traditional medicine in healthcare in Kenya, as highlighted by the fact that 80% of the population use traditional medicine as a primary source of healthcare.
Yes.
And importantly, you also clearly defined the challenges of traditional medicine, and you presented to us some of your recommendations. Thank you very much for those. So since our TICAD8 is an event, our TICAD8 event is a kind of a platform to which you can put forward your ideas. I will ask, what resources are needed for traditional medicine research in Kenya that can possibly be provided through Japanese private and academia partnership? So could you please briefly outline them?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that very wonderful question. Now, for us to be able to develop traditional medicine and avail it as a mainstream healthcare system, especially as a primary healthcare system, we need to develop this product in a way that we know the safety, the efficacy, and also the dosage of the product. So this is one key area where we really need collaboration and I would say technical support so that we can be able to avail this key scientific information in a timely and an accurate manner. So I would say that this is one area where collaboration would be very key so that we use knowledge already experienced by persons who have been able to do this area nicely and therefore engage us and share with us what we can be able to do also in our backyard, provide this very important key scientific evidence. The other thing which I think is important for us to share so that we are able to develop this product is the skill. And the skill comes with infrastructure, infrastructure for research. Much as we have certain items which we can use, but improved infrastructure in terms of equipment which can give a wider throughput of investigation of some of the products we have would really help us look into a wider area of these medicinal plants and zero in those ones which we can develop for therapeutic benefit. Also skill, you know, you can be highly trained, but if you don't have skill, experience of how to do certain things, then you might not be very accurate in doing them. So that skill comes from collaboration and also working alongside persons who have developed areas of expertise in that area. So this would be key for us so that we are able to tap this information and incorporate in our own systems so that we are able to develop this product with the knowledge of persons who have been able to do it better, like our Japanese colleagues, for example. Finally, I think the other bit which I cannot go without mentioning is the financial angle of things. As I said earlier, our government is in full support of traditional medicine and is actually providing resources for us to be able to engage in this area and develop therapies from these products. But support is always welcome. More support will mean more work being done. So if we are able to collaborate and perhaps share a bit of that support from our colleagues who are collaborating with us, then we'll be able to go much deeper and much wider in looking into these products and identifying therapies which we can be able to use in the region from herbal products.
Thank you very much, Professor Tolo. We totally agree with you. And we are taking down your recommendations. Hopefully, we will be able to meet them. We can do a partnership between Kenya and Japan. So again, thank you for your discussion. Please stay with us for more discussions later.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is from Kenya's neighbor, which is Tanzania. Let me introduce Professor Bruno Sunguya, the Director of Research and Publications at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences. Professor Sunguya will talk about the current situation of healthcare and traditional medicine in Tanzania. Please welcome Dr. Sunguya.
Minasama konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you, the organizer of this event. I'm pleased to be here to represent Tanzania, but also to represent my institution, Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences, which is the prime research and training institution in health in Tanzania, with three main agenda: one, training of health workforce; two, research in health-related issues; and three, provision of services. And in terms of research, drug discoveries and research in traditional medicine is one of the main research agendas that the university has. Now, in today's session, I'll be talking about health-related quality of lives and well-being by drug development and African traditional medicine, but I'll zero in on the efforts of traditional medicines in Tanzania and the role of our institution and the potential for international collaboration as far as traditional medicine is concerned. We all acknowledge the role of traditional medicine in curing billions of lives globally. It is a long-standing practice, and the products of traditional medicine have helped the global community to address various ailments and diseases globally. And Tanzania is just one of the countries that have benefited from that. Now, in order to move forward, we need to take stock of what we have done before, improve the practices, do more research on these areas, and therefore be more practical as the time concerned. Now, this will be the outline of my presentation, as I'll take you through the current status of traditional medicine in Tanzania and how it is integrated in national health system. But I'll also speak about our institute, traditional medicine at MUHAS, but also narrate some of the challenges and opportunities, and therefore provide some of the recommendations that can actually take us forward from this point onward. We know the role of traditional medicine, as I've mentioned before. And in Tanzania, just one of the countries in the global community, the demand for traditional medicine is also very high, both in rural and urban areas. And it is also attributed by the fact that the health system is quite underdeveloped. Inadequate health facilities, medical personnel, drugs, and other medical supplies makes people's options on traditional medicine to be more in demand. The evidence that we have is that 60 to 70% of Tanzanians populations rely first in traditional medicine before even conventional medicine. And therefore this provides an opportunity for development of traditional medicine as the practice, but also the products to help these people and the population in general. We know that traditional medicine provides relief on infectious diseases, but the current evidence provides the evidence that non-communicable diseases, maternal and child health challenges have been addressed through the use of some of the traditional medicine and products that we have. The evidence that we have currently on COVID-19 situation, which had no cure for quite a while, and we did not know what was troubling the global community, everyone was practicing on their own. And the role of traditional medicine in these fronts clearly demonstrated the need to emphasize and to research more on some of the medicines and the products that we have locally in order to address some of the local conditions. Some of the products came from our own areas, and no wonder the burdens of the diseases that we had, deaths and suffering, were quite not as the global represented in terms of the deaths and ailments. Nationally, traditional medicine as an integral part of health system in Tanzania is recognized by the law. Traditional Medicine and Alternative Medicine Act and policy was installed in 2002, and it acknowledges and guides traditional medicine practices. And therefore, the government acknowledges the importance and the use thereof of traditional medicine. And as an oversight, Ministry of Health, through the Directorate of Curative Service, has an important section dealing specifically with traditional and alternative medicine, and it is governed by the Assistant Director. The government has put in place several other institutions, and importantly, these are research institutions. One being National Institute of Medical Research. It has its own unit, which is specifically for traditional medicine, and it also has the laboratory located in Dar es Salaam. Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences also has one of its institutes as Institute of Traditional Medicine, which actually addresses some of the challenges that we have seen before. This unit started in 1974 by the then the president and founder of the nation, President Julius Kambarage Nyerere. And it was elevated through the Act of Parliament number 9 into the Institute of Traditional Medicine in 1991. It has main responsibilities as research into traditional healing systems, identifying material medica which can be modernized and developed into drugs, but also promote research on useful traditional healing practices. Through this institute in our university, more than 10,000 records of medicinal plant specimens have been collected. Over 1,000 plant species used for medicine. Yes,
でもみんなに回したらまずいか繋がらなくなる。YouTube 何個生きてるかわかんないから。
And over 500 publications in peer-reviewed journals have been published. 3 patents in herbal medicine, but also 20 herbal products for malaria. And here I'm emphasizes malaria and neglected tropical diseases as one of the problems that made a lot of Tanzanians suffering. Some of the products helped in addressing some of these challenges. But recently, the medicines for addressing the challenges in prostate hypertrophy have been discovered at MUAS, and it is now being widely researched to see the efficacy and the effectiveness of this medicine. But also, we have some of the products and some of the ingredients for respiratory ailments, but also skincare, food supplements, to alleviate some of the symptoms in hepatitis, memory loss, baldness, other infections, and diabetes, as well as ulcers. These are some of the areas that call for more research in order to determine their efficacies and effectiveness and how we can integrate them now into the conventional medicine to address the challenges that the country has. In addition to this research output, the Institute is also focusing on training, both in master's and PhD programs, but also for giving short-term training into for traditional healers and on best practices of traditional medicine. Because by the law, these are supposed to be registered and have necessary capacities and skills to address and to practice their own skills, but also staff exchange programs. Now, these are some of the products that are located, that are coming from MUHAS. Prucan, which is one of the medicines that has been discovered by MUHAS, is aiming at addressing the challenges of prostate diseases. But also, as mentioned, there are some of other products that can actually address some of the skin conditions, but also infectious disease, as we've seen. During the COVID-19, some of the products that came from MUHAS actually addresses the national needs, including disinfectants, sanitizers, but also some of the products include that could actually give relief of symptoms of respiratory tract infections. Labs and other equipments located in the Institute of Traditional Medicine are helping us to realize some of these goals. Now, having said the context in Tanzania, there are challenges that call for collaboration in addressing them. The high population growth call for a need to strengthen the traditional medicine. This is an opportunity because the market is significant and the traditional medicines are acceptable by wide populations. There is biodiversity because of the landscapes, forests, and multicultural ethnicities. Laws and regulations in Tanzania are promising, and they are helping traditional medicine to thrive and grow, and therefore an opportunity for further research. Tanzania is a virgin land for research and discovery, but this is also true for the entire African continent. And the presence of the institutions with autonomy like MUHAS, with established structures and policies and research facilities, is also one of the important ingredients to foster such kind of collaborations. Traditional medicine is an important theme in national research agenda, and so it is one of the core research agenda of the Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences. The situations globally, like emerging diseases such as COVID-19, call for new remedies that can come from traditional medicine. This is an opportunity for all of us. And governments in Africa have been pro-traditional medicines, and so are the people as you have seen, 60 to 70% of the populations are relying on traditional medicine. There are several challenges that can be addressed through some of the collaborations. Research in traditional medicines is not yet systematically conducted. We lack clinical trials in traditional medicines, just like we lack clinical trials in many other areas, and this needs a lot of emphasis. Fewer traditional medicine scientists and resources can be actually an attribute to lack of clinical trials in these areas. This is also in line with other basic researches that can inform efficacy and effectiveness of traditional medicines and products. There is no strong linkage with pharma corporations and institutions. That is making traditional medicine practice alone, and therefore it needs really to be improved. Funding, as we all know, for traditional medicine has not been prioritized because it is not that kind of a westernized idea, and therefore needs to be, this narrative needs to be changed. There is, of course, resistance from conventional medicine because of the different kind of training, and the knowledge that is coming from generation to generation is not well documented, and therefore this has a danger of being modified and therefore lose its true meaning. In terms of recommendations, strengthening of traditional medicine research comes top in one of my recommendations. If we can establish Center of Excellence for Herbal Medicine and Research and Development, we can leapfrog into this traditional medicine agenda. This can help to strengthen research collaborations with potential stakeholders, but also be a platform for clinical research and evaluation of all products that we have. This foundation can help to address the gaps that I've mentioned before. But also we need to build research capacity through collaborations and provision of training opportunities for some of the aspirants of traditional medicine training and cadres. Development of a national plant genomic and natural product bank can help the global community to understand what's found in Tanzania for further research. But importantly, and for this congregation, this meeting, is the linkage that we need between MUHAS, or between Tanzania institutions or African institutions and Japanese institutions, including the pharma companies, which we know their role in the global research and drug agenda has been performing. Research institutions such as Kumamoto universities and others in Japan who are attractive to development of natural products are actually invited. And here, I'll just narrate some of the collaborations that we've been having, importantly between MUHAS and Kumamoto University, which started long ago. But in 2016, we signed the MOU that have led to a number of important outputs, not only in terms of publications of high impact factor papers, but also training and capacity building. Over 8 PhDs have been trained in Kumamoto universities or are undergoing training currently. These have led to strengthening capacity of our institution, but also short-term visits by some of our faculties, now counting 4 and beyond, have strengthened the basic sciences conduct in Tanzania and indeed in our university. There are 3 prospective PhDs, but also Kumamoto University has helped us with capacity strengthenings in terms of machines, for lab equipment, but also establishment of biorepository by provision of some of the freezers and fridges, but other, which is also in line with our agenda of developing Institute of Infectious Diseases in the disease later. Nationally, this kind of collaboration have led and helped us to conduct the first national HIV drug resistance, which was technically supported by Professor Ueno from Kumamoto University, and we really owe him for what he has done to our institution. We therefore call for other institutions to help us and to build the capacity of our institution, but also to generate more evidence that we can all do together. Diseases like COVID-19 and other pandemics that will be coming later can be addressed if we work together. There are a lot of knowledge sharing that can come from traditional medicine, from our own practices, that can help the global communities as well as the Japanese communities if we utilize the collaborations that we have. The work continues, but in order for this work to be well done, collaboration is important. I therefore call corporations like SI and others in Kumamoto universities and other institutions in Japan to join hands with Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences to realize the potentials that the country may offer in furthering and helping the general population and the global population in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Sunguya. That was very clear. I will ask you a question that is similar to what I have asked Professor Tolo a while ago. But then again, you have a strong collaboration, a very successful collaboration with Japanese academia, specifically Kumamoto University. So my question is, what specific resources are needed for traditional medicine research in Tanzania that can be possibly provided through Japanese private partnership? Like you mentioned, a possible partnership with Eisai and other pharmaceutical companies. Specifically, could you tell us some of the ideas that you might have, like specific resources that you could maybe obtain from them?
Thank you very much for this important question. And one of the things that I mentioned also in my presentation is the efforts that the Institute of Traditional Medicine is doing currently. And despite all the challenges that they have been working very hard. Now, improving their work definitely call for more investment. And this kind of investment can come from collaborations with the pharma companies like Eisai and the institutions like Kumamoto Universities and many other pharma companies in Japan. Strengthening the clinical trial research on the products that we have can make these products known, one, in the global community, but also prove their efficacies in addressing some of the challenges. My colleagues in the Institute of Traditional Medicine are also doing a number of research in malaria and neglected tropical diseases, and also products that already exist, but not very much researched because of the competencies and capacities that we have needs to be addressed. And this can actually be addressed in terms of strengthening the skills of clinical trials, but also joining forces with pharma companies and institutes in Japan to conduct these clinical trials and basic research. That's one. Two, the labs that they are using and the equipments that are using are not in keeping with the qualities and scientific output that is supposed to be needed by the current global community. And therefore, strengthening their labs, strengthening the capacity of them to do research, extract natural products from the herbs and others can help us to reap the potentials of traditional medicines. But in terms of the research strengthening, joint conduct of research by MUHAS, Kumamoto University, and pharma companies can actually help us to realize this. This is in terms of conduct, publications, but also disseminations of the findings that can actually be done. The Institute is recruiting young people. There are a number of colleagues that are actually on board, but they are not trained or received advanced trainings. And therefore, training opportunities, including Masters of Science and PhDs for these junior colleagues, may help them to be good in what they're doing, but also being the clear links between MUHAS and these other institutions. We also need to do joint discoveries and testing, joint dissemination, but as I said earlier, strengthening of laboratory and equipment in what we actually do. We can do this together, like we've been done in other areas like HIV, working together with Professor Wen of Kumamoto University.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your participation and for your presentation, Dr. Sunguya. Please stay with us for more panel discussions. So after hearing from our three distinguished speakers, we perceive the gap between the Japanese company's direction and the healthcare needs and approaches in Africa. The company's direction is towards developing conventional medicines for specific neglected tropical diseases, while people in Africa mostly use traditional medicines for treatment of various diseases. And they would appreciate getting support for more research on traditional medicine. So we ask ourselves, how can these two conditions be connected to achieve the Sampoyoshi, which means good for yourself, myself, and the society? Here we see that academia could be the answer to bridge the gap between Japanese pharmaceutical companies' direction and the medical needs on the ground. So let me introduce our next resource speaker, Professor Shogo Misumi. He is the director of the Global Center for Natural Resource Sciences at Kumamoto University. Professor Misumi will talk about the Kumamoto University's latest research activities and contributions towards scientific evidence-based traditional medicine. Please welcome Professor Misumi.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ahn, for your kind introduction. I'm very honored to have the opportunity to talk about our recent efforts to solve issues related to universal health coverage in Africa. Today, I would like to talk about the importance of the public-private academia partnership, PPAP, in enhancing universal health coverage. So as Professors Toro and Sunguya have introduced today, the important role of traditional medicine in healthcare in the East Africa region cannot be overemphasized. In Africa, many efforts are already being made to improve the healthcare services that are compatible with local lifestyle and medical systems. However, there is still a need for greater public access to traditional medicine in terms of adequate information on their quality assurance, safety, proper use, and effectiveness. Therefore, academia will tackle these issues through stronger integration in public-private partnership P3 by providing enhanced program for human development and the creation of healthcare avenue. Here, I would like to introduce two cases. The first is about natural product-based therapeutic strategies for HIV cure. The biggest problem with current treatments for HIV infection is the inability to eliminate HIV latently infected cells from the body. To find novel therapies that target latent HIV, we focus on the potential of traditional medicines. To access some resources, we reached to the Romantan traditional doctor in Nepal and asked them to share the information about Stellara chemijasmi L as a useful plant for cancer treatments. Using these plants, many African and Japanese researchers had the opportunity to learn the methodology for isolating and identifying many active ingredients. Next, using the isolated compounds, we performed a wipe assay that can evaluate the elimination of HIV latently infected cells. The results show that C2 and C3 can eliminate HIV latently infected cells in vitro. Furthermore, we demonstrate that the treatment with C2 or C3 of latently infected cells from the peripheral blood of HIV-infected individuals receiving the card produced viral RNA from the latently infected cells. Finally, a Murat assay capable of assessing latently infected cell activation in vivo, showing that C2 activated the JRAS cell and its efficacy was enhanced in combination with BRD4 inhibitor JQ1. These studies suggest that the possibility of natural product-based therapeutic strategies for HIV cure. The second, I will introduce natural product-based therapeutic strategies for SARS-CoV-2. In this work, we closely collaborated with the researchers at the University of Khartoum, we successfully discovered novel compounds in useful plants from Sudan that can prevent SARS-CoV-2 infection. This is the final slide. At Kumamoto University, researchers and international students from Africa are conducting research on potential use of plants for various diseases. Sustainable and successful use of traditional medicines entails that African countries must operate their own research platform for search and evaluation of useful plants against infectious disease, extraction and identification of active ingredients, and development cultivation techniques for useful plants. In addition, through the development of human resource and educational tools, they can effectively utilize traditional medicine supported by scientific evidence. Knowledge acquired from these endeavors will foster reliability, widespread use in many countries, and promote harmonization between traditional medicine and modern prevention medicine such as vaccine. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Misumi Sensei. That's a brilliant presentation. At this point, I would like to call on Professor Tolo and Professor Sunguya to make a brief comment on Professor Misumi's presentation. But my request would be please keep your comments short because it seems that we're running out of time. So first, Professor Tolo, may I call on you, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Musumi, for this very nice presentation and highlighting on how a natural product can be developed for management of infections like the HIV and the COVID-19. I think mine as a way of conversation will come as a question so that as we answer, then we're able to converse and see the best way forward in this. I did notice in your presentation that you are basing the choice of the natural product for investigation through talking to herbal practitioners in Nepal and in Sudan. Now, in our own experience back here, is that usually herbal practitioners are very reserved and very secretive of the information they give out. So sometimes you cannot be able to get an accurate information of a herbal product so that it can inform your research. So my question is this: how did you verify the information you got from these herbal practitioners so that you are able to engage your research? But the second question is that I've noticed very high instrumentation in your presentation, and that you are using pure isolated products for your research. Now, our experience on this side is that when we isolate those pure compounds, we lose activity and we see more of the toxicity. And therefore, the benefit of the medicinal value of the extract, so to speak, is lost. So we usually now use identification of those pure compounds as markers of biological activity, but we tend to prepare the product wholesome so that we investigate it wholesome for therapeutic benefit. What would be your comment in this? Because for us to be able to develop effective medicine, perhaps we would require to develop the whole product than isolating pure compounds for research. Then very, very finally, now we know that herbal products have been used over many years, and therefore we just need some verification, some validation. Is in vitro and in vivo experimentation enough to promote these products to human use? Yeah, thank you very much.
Professor Masumi, would you like to answer the questions?
So in our experiments, so our compound is completely purified before we start the in vitro experiments and the in vivo experiments. So, and basically, our experiment started using the mixture of the extract of the herbal medicine. But finally, these extracts is completely purified using the HPLC, something like that. So and then we completely confirmed the effectiveness of these compounds individually. So is that correct? Is that okay?
Yeah, what I was saying is that when you isolate these pure compounds, because in a herbal product preparation, many of the compounds which are there are acting synergetically to give you that therapeutic effect you're seeing. So when you separate them, that synergetic effect is lost, and therefore you lose the value of the product. Yeah, so that is where my concern was. Thank you.
I know. So, but the most company request us to separate the ingredient separately. So because they want to develop the each compound from the useful plants. So, but we have already recognized the synergistic effect of these compounds. But in this case, we have already completely separated each ingredients from the useful plants.
Perhaps what would you comment in the in vitro and in vivo assays as the best way forward to promote the product to human use, without necessarily going through what we would know as standardized clinical trial?
So, and in that case, so our compound is synthesized in the, so it's a lucky, so because C2 and C3 is synthesized in ourselves. So therefore, we can continue to this experiment so for the clinical studies.
Thank you, Professor Tolo, for your question. This discussion is really very interesting. Perhaps you would need a side TICAD event to continue it. Yeah. So let me just ask briefly, Professor Sunguya, if you could make a brief comment or question about Professor Misumi's presentation. Please proceed.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I really appreciate the work done by Shogo Sensei and colleagues in Sudan in particular, but also in Asia. And this, I think, it's a leapfrog. Quite fewer scientists from outside Africa will come to Africa to research natural products. And well, as we know that the continent is rich in some of these ingredients and active substance that can actually be used for cure some of the diseases that are not really known to have cure globally. So this is a really commendable job done by you. And I think this is the way to go. As you know, and I think this will also be a question on the way forward. As you know, most of the pharma companies have not really used Africa as the site for drug discovery or even researching their drugs way before the discovery is made. And therefore, what comes to Africa in this fast-growing population are the ready-made products for use, which actually, as we know, owing to the differences in genetic makeups, etc., and the context, the efficacy may not actually be the way it was planned or the way it was found in the original clinical trials done elsewhere. So my question to now to Shogo Sensei is that as you proceeded or as you landed in Sudan and started the work, what were the main challenges in identifying these products? but also what were the roadblocks or challenges or barriers that may actually be learned by others who are coming to the continent to do similar kind of research. But secondly is that the way forward now after this potential discovery or efficacy of the products that are, especially on the HIV cure or HIV management, and therefore perhaps care and treatment, what will be next in terms of that? And I think the third will be if there is any possibility of landing to another country researching on the same kind of products that may actually be existing and therefore complementing to such kind of research that you have done under Kumamoto University. Thank you very much.
Professor Misumi.
So, okay, in the so it's difficult for us to use only the this compound from the traditional medicine, useful plants. So because basically the HIV treatments, so so CAR-T has already CAR-T is very useful for the patients. So therefore, our future plan is our compound have to use with the CAR-T for the HIV infected peoples. So now the most important thing is that we cannot eliminate the HIV-latently infected cells from our body. So therefore, so like the C2 and the C3 compound, so we need to find the latently to activate the HIV latently infected cells. So we found the new compounds. So with the CAR-T, it's our future plan.
Okay, thank you very much for your insights, professors. Thank you very much for your presentation. And to sum up this point of the event, we have learned from our speakers the importance of private-academia partnership, among others. So I would like to thank first these professors for the enlightening discussion, because this exchange of ideas is very helpful for us to understand the current situation on the ground and the realistic needs and challenges to be met in order to create a true partnership for sustainable progress of health and well-being in Africa that will benefit everyone. So to our distinguished speakers, thank you for your active participation. One of the critical issues that must be addressed when we talk of healthcare is the accessibility of medicines and medical equipment. So we would like to discuss this issue here. We are fortunate that at this event, a representative from Toyota Tsusho Corporation can join us. Toyota Tsusho Corporation has significantly contributed to the improvement of medical access using their special vehicle that is vital to the cold chain system for medicine distribution. Mr. Ko Nakagawa of Toyota Tsusho Corporation will briefly present the company's activities in Africa. Please welcome Mr. Nakagawa.
Today's my presentation is business which Japan should perform in the field of global health in Africa. Our target infectious diseases are childhood vaccine, tuberculosis, AIDS, and malaria. First product is refrigerated vaccine transport vehicle. Second product is X-ray diagnostic vehicle for tuberculosis. Fujifilm Japan got WHO homologation and start sales to Global Fund. importance of vaccine in development countries, as you know. We are working with COVAX team. Would you see the COVAX summit video, which held last year?
Joining the COVAX AMC and the global effort to ensure vaccine equity. First up is Toyota Tsusho, a trading company of the Toyota Group. They joined COVAX with a contribution of 100 million Japanese yen and a partnership with Power to make transformational changes in vaccine delivery.
About 20% of vaccine is lost every year due to such transport condition and cold chain problem. 3 problems exist for the last 1 mile delivery. First, driving on bad road. Second, temperature control 2 to 8 degrees. Third, it's obligation to get WHO PQS homologation for medical equipment. Finally, we made our product Toyota Land Cruiser with B medical system vaccine refrigerator. We got WHO PQS homologation last year, and we start sales to mainly UNICEF, the Japanese government grant aid, and other UN organizations. Concerning vehicle vaccine cold chain transport, vehicle selection in this slide. Our vehicle is for the last 1 mile delivery to the end user. We will continue to do our best to contribute to global fund, global health in Africa. Thank you very much, and you can see my presentation slides in this event website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nakagawa. Thank you for joining us today. The logistics of drug distribution is really a key issue in remote areas, and Toyota Tsusho's involvement in facilitating the medical access is a big contribution towards the improvement of health in Africa and other parts of the world. So now, I would like to ask Dr. Kawahara, Chairman of Resinantes and Professor in Kumamoto University, to make a brief comment about today's discussion. He is one of the key persons who link our collaborative efforts in Japan and Africa. Dr. Kawahara, thank you for joining us today. Please proceed with your talk.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, habari yako? Assalamualaikum. And thank you very much, everybody. Asante
sana.
Oh! yeah. Asante sana. And shukran jazilan. Oh, sorry, African people. Yeah, sorry, at this time I'm talking in Japanese. 私はロシナンテス理事長であり、熊本大学の臨床教授であります川原直之と申します。このサイドイベントを日本とアフリカ、その他多くの国々と結んで開催できたことは多くの方々の貢献があったことだと思います。
So this event is being organized by Kumamoto University and Rocinantes, and as one of the organizers, I'd like to express my heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to you. For 3.5 years, I was in Tanzania, and also for 2 years in Sudan, as by being sent from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then I've been involved in Sudan for 16 years and Zambia as well as a part of my job of Rocinantes. After staying in Africa and seeing many patients, I realized that these traditional medicines are being used very widely in Africa. If these traditional medicines are effective, efficacious, of course I believe that they are efficacious, then I think we need to find out about its pharmacology or the mechanism in an academic way by collaborating between Japan and Africa in the academia. I think that would be very worthwhile. We have professors from pharmacology of Kumamoto University attending today, and I have actually consulted with them in Sudan, where I am. Professor Kai has been there or was visiting from Kumamoto University, and as a result, last year Kumamoto University established a Sudan office in Khartoum, so that a collaborative research can be conducted between the two countries or two universities. In the post-forum of TICAD8, we had a very active discussion. And we discussed about the traditional medicine of Africa to utilize them in the clinical setting and what would be the best way to do that. In Japan, we have what is called herbal medicine. It is being prescribed to the patients from the doctors for treatment of diseases. And that is because in Japan, we have a Japanese pharmacopoeia that includes these herbal medicine. This pharmacopoeia of Japan can perhaps be used by Africa for their traditional medicine. That was one of the ideas that was presented. Let me talk about my dream. If the African countries and Japan can collaborate to utilize these traditional medicine or create a new drug from these traditional medicine, and by referencing the Japanese pharmacopoeia, then these products can be promoted to the African patients. Not just African patients, but to the Japanese patients as well as patients around the world. And traditional medicine of Africa can contribute to medicine in the world. That is my dream. In order to realize this dream, various organizations such as the government, the academia, universities, and companies and NGOs. These organizations in Japan as well as in Africa need to create a team in order to promote this idea. I think that would be the best approach. Recently, we were hearing a lot about public-private partnership. I think universities should be included there, or academia should be included, so that all entities can collaborate to utilize traditional medicine in healthcare. I will be going to Sudan, and I would like to really revitalize the Kumamoto University's office there. Let's all work together to realize this dream. Thank you very much. Dr. Kawahara, thank you very much for your very passionate presentation. So this side event, the significance of this side event, I think really is lies in what Dr. Kawahara just said. Finally, I'd like to call upon the member of the House of Representatives, Mr. Ichiro Aisawa, to say a few words of closing. Is he there? Is Mr. Aisawa there?
Please unmute Mr. Aisawa. Does it work? Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me all right? Thank you for your introduction. I am Ichiro Aisawa, a member of the House of Representatives. I'd like to extend my sincerest appreciation to all the members who participate in this side event of TICAD8. The title of the conference was Health-Related Quality of Life and Well-Being by Drug Development and African Traditional Medicines, which I think is the most important for Africa at this moment. And I'm very happy and appreciative for all of you who had energetically spoke about this to create better future. And I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to the organizer for creating such a wonderful symposium. I am, as the chairperson of the Japan AU Parliamentary Friendship League, I have been advocating this to create the win-win relationship, and also I have been collaborating with the AU so that we are able to raise the level of our standard with ourselves. I am serving as a chairperson of the Japan AU Parliamentary Friendship League, and our sense of awareness is quite clear. Total number of the African continent is about 130 or maybe 140 billion at this moment. And there is a sharp rise of population. By the year 2050, this would reach 2.5 billion. So, according to the estimate of United Nations in 2100, this will be a continent of 4 billion people. So we sincerely hope that the continent of Africa should be the continent of hope, where people would be able to realize their hopes and dreams. And with the exercise of ownership, I sincerely hope that we will be able to help them realize these goals. And we are more than ready to provide any support that is possible. Education is important, and training is also important, so that it is possible to raise the level of skills. And we will continue to provide support with other initiatives and other initiatives. We are faced with the global warming, but we will raise the yield of the agricultural land, and also we will raise the productivity so that people will be able to have more income. And with this comprehensive growth potential, it is possible to have a better economy. So that would be the very foundation of this. So the very foundation of this growth is universal health coverage, UHC. And the level of UHC is of the essence. If it is not enough, then things would not function well. So this is a kind of awareness we all share. The person from the Toyota Tsusho talked about the importance of the last 1 mile. He had a great point, and I am truly convinced with what he said. And in the Tunis declaration, the USC, the achievement of USC is something we are committed. So there has been the clear declaration to realize that there could be many things that Japan can do, and there could be things that Japan is the only country which would be able to provide that kind of a support. So reflecting on the Tunis declaration, I'd like to confirm my own commitment, and the elimination of the 3 major infectious diseases, the AIDS, malaria, and TB, and we are providing support for Global Fund. So I am also the co-chair of the Global Fund Japan Committee, and I have been working hard to improve infectious disease control and medical healthcare systems. We have no other choice but to have more money allocated to these areas. So because of the COVID-19, there have been the situation where the less amount of money has been assigned to them. So this is a reversal of the kind of progress we have made. And this was true not only in Africa, but also for the middle-income countries and also advanced countries. This warrants more attention. But especially important is to pay more attention to the 3 major infectious diseases, and also we could see the new pandemic, such as the new COVID-19. So we should be always be prepared for this kind of new infectious diseases. And against this backdrop, it is important to have traditional medicine in each region, and they are meaningful in its own ways. So, and about the medica material, I think this has been mentioned in the presentations. So I was able to learn a great deal from your presentations, and I'm totally appreciative for that. And also about neglected tropical diseases. If you think about all these, it is important to have the traditional medicine. If it is possible to make the best use of these traditional medicine, then we'd be able to be one step further, to have one step further for the elimination of NTD. And also Manoish, which is spirulina, and I'm sure some of you are aware of this name. Spirulina is very nutritious. It is not that we spend huge amount of money to have this. It is not that they have to buy the nutritious supplement from the rest of the world, but rather they are able to make use of the traditional food or the food materials. And so just as in the case of traditional medicine, so I just wanted to say that in order to exemplify what I meant. So whatever the case, universal health coverage is of the essence. And so this should be shared by many of you. And it is important to raise the level of universal health coverage in the continent of Africa. And I pin high hopes on the ownerships of each country. And also on our side, we try to collaborate with each region with our skills and exert our best effort. Thank you very much for holding the wonderful side event. I'd like to extend my sincerest appreciation from the bottom of my heart. Maybe we could have the further discussion with the President, Tawara. Thank you very much. And also, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to all the people who are listening. So with this, I'd like to end my closing remarks. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Aisawa, for a very good summary and wrap-up of the session. With this, we'd like to close the TICAD8 official side event, Health-Related Quality of Life and Well-Being by Drug Development and African Traditional Medicines. We would like to apologize for the communication failure, but we'd like to edit this and to make sure that this will function well in the YouTube version of the symposium. So we'd like you to visit the YouTube. Thank you very much for your participation in this 2-hour event with a lot of content to digest. What are the things that we can do? This is the question we have to raise, we have to ask for ourselves. In order to realize USC in Africa, what are the things that we can do? That's the new question we have to face with. With this, we'd like to close this session. Thank you very, very much again for your participation.